Yo, what's poppin' everybody? It's the Hyphenate here, and today we're going to talk about the Aurora-Aperture XND 2000 variable ND filter. It's super powerful, great quality, and very affordable. If you're not sure when or why to use ND or variable ND filters, then I highly recommend checking out a previous video that I did that explains in full detail on how to use them. I have a link to that video in the description. Now, if you fully understand why and how to use ND filters, then you're gonna love this one. So the great thing about variable ND filters is that you can adjust the amount of light that you wanna cut. Now, most variable ND filters cut about 6 stops of light, which generally can be enough, but when you're shooting wide open, fast lenses and you're in bright light, like a very sunny day, then it might not be enough. Generally, the max setting for a variable ND filter is not very optimal. So if a variable ND filter says that it cuts about 6 stops of light, generally at that 6th stop, it'll create a lot more vignetting and sometimes can even start to introduce an X pattern that will completely ruin your image. So even though some variable ND filters say that they can cut a certain amount of light, usually you don't want to go to that extreme. Some cheaper quality ND filters can also offset colors and introduce a tint. They can also slightly degrade the image by adding textures or patterns into the image. Many have significant vignetting and some even lose sharpness and soften the image a bit. There was one brand of variable ND filter that I had for a while and it always made my images a little bit more brown and red, which took a lot more time in Lightroom to try to make the colors look more natural. Also, that one introduced a textured pattern in the background out of focus areas, which I really didn't like when I made big prints. I've been shooting with Sony cameras for a while and I've used crop sensor bodies and now I'm at full frame bodies. Now when I used a crop sensor body like the A6400, A6500, the maximum shutter speed that it can shoot at is 1/4000th of a second. When I use that camera body with a fast lens like a 1.4, f1.4, then in a bright daylight situation, I still was overexposing when I was at 1/4000th of a second and shooting at the widest aperture. So for those situations, I had to use an ND filter. Now, if you're shooting with a Sony full frame body, the maximum shutter speed is 1/8000th of a second, so you're able to cut more light and you won't really have to use a variable ND filter if you're shooting fast shutter speeds. Now, if you're shooting slower shutter speeds or doing long exposure photography during the day, then you're definitely gonna need an ND filter. Now, if you're doing video work, then you know that you want your shutter speed to be double the amount of your frame rate. So if you're shooting 24 frames per second, you want to be at 1/48th of a second shutter speed or 1/50th of a second shutter speed. Now, if you're doing that in broad daylight and you're using a fast lens like an f2.0, f1.8, f1.4, then you're going to have way too much light, and using a variable ND filter that cuts about 6 stops of light is definitely not going to work for you. It's still going to be overexposed. You're going to need to cut even more light. Now for that situation, this Aurora-Aperture variable ND filter will definitely come in clutch and is extremely useful. The really great thing about these variable ND filters is that they really do maintain color accuracy, sharpness, and don't introduce a lot of vignetting. The build and construction is also really solid. The ring and the frame are thick metal, and the rotating ring that allows you to adjust how much light you want to cut has a nice tension when rotating. So it's smooth, but it stays in place. So you don't have to worry about a lot of camera movement moving the ring, making you change your setting of how much light you're cutting. So it stays in place, very solidly built, and it's not heavy at all. They have all different types of sizes for these variable ND filters, so you can use them on whatever lens you want. The one I currently use is the 49mm, as that works on my Sony FE 2.0 28mm lens, as well as my Sony Zeiss 55mm f1.8 lens. The 49mm that I own runs about $89, and the bigger sizes like the 86mm runs at about $210. I've used this on every single shoot that I've done outdoors in broad daylight for video, and I've used it on a lot of my time lapses that I do during the day where I want slow shutter speeds so I can have nice smooth skies or nice smooth water. I highly recommend these, and if you're doing pro video, this is a must-have. If you guys are interested in purchasing these, I do have links in the description where you can purchase them from either B&H Photo or from Amazon. It doesn't change the price that you get it at, but it does help this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to drop a like and a comment if you have any questions, and don't forget to subscribe. I have a lot more videos coming soon. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.